Hey guys, it's Natalia and today I'm going to be sharing with you my favourite books of 2019. So yes, this video is a little bit late. I usually do it before the end of the year, but this time around I thought I would wait till the actual year was over and then compile all my favourite reads of 2019. And to be completely honest with you guys, I didn't read as many amazing books as I did previous years, so this pile was easier to compile than I thought it would be. But anyway, I'm going to start off with the books that made it onto my favourites list but aren't like top favourites, and then I'll leave the last couple of books as my top favourites. So the last book you will see in this video is like my all-time favourite of 2019. So let's just get on into my favourite reads of 2019. So the first book, or should I say manga, is Orange, the Complete Collection Volume 1 by Ichigo Takano. So this one was my first ever manga read, so I'm really glad it was because I really enjoyed it, like loved it, to be completely honest with you, because it has all my favourite tropes in it, so all aspects of a novel, should I say. So romance, there's a fantastical element of time travelling and amazing friendships and a really sweet storyline. So if you don't know what this story is about, it basically follows Naho, who on her first day of high school, I think, she receives a letter from her future self telling her that a new boy is going to join their school and she has to look out for him. And that's all I'm going to say because that's all I knew going into the story, and I really loved that because you just get to see amazing friendships and just be blown away by this amazing story. So I really loved this, and that's why it's one of my favorites of 2019. The next one is a Chris Carter book, so of course I had to include one because I ended up reading like I think around 5 novels of his, and I think this one stood out to me the most because I remember the most from it, and it is The Death Sculptor by Chris Carter, of course. So in this one, the catchphrase on Goodreads, like at the top in the description, was "Good job you didn't turn on the lights." So at first we followed this nurse who comes in because she looks after this cancer patient. I think he has cancer and he's like terminally ill. He's like literally on his deathbed. She comes in and he's murdered. Like, it doesn't make sense because he was on the verge of death, so why would someone kill him? But what's most shocking is she turns around and it said, "Good job you didn't turn on the lights," because she came in to check on her patient in the middle of the night, but she didn't turn on the lights. Or I think she went to get water or something. I don't know, something happened, but literally she came into the room, it was pitch black, and the killer was standing right there, and thank God she didn't turn on the lights. So basically it's full of suspense, full of tension. I loved finding out why the killer killed his victims. Like, it was so good. This is like one of my all-time favorites, like up there with The Caller by Chris Carter. So good. So of course one of my favorites of 2019. Then the next book is Wallbanger by Alice Clayton. So this one was actually my first read of 2019, and it was such a memorable read because I think I read around 94 books, and I still remember this one, like how much fun I had listening to the audiobook. So I think I listened to it all in one night because it was so funny. So we basically follow Caroline, who moves in with her cat Clive to her dream San Francisco apartment, but on her first night there she finds out that Simon, her next door neighbour, has, let's just say, a very active sexual life because she can always hear what is going on next door, and it's just so funny. Like, when she talks with Clive, her cat, she literally reminded me of me. It was just such a funny story. I loved the romance, I loved the whole story. It was just so good. I've always had like the urge to go to San Francisco, so I love reading about romances set in San Francisco. It was such a good one. I love Simon, Caroline and Clive so much. Like, yes. So of course, another favourite. The next one is a finale to one of my all-time favourite series. So it is 5 Dark Fates by Kendall Blake. So this is the finale to the 3 Dark Crowns quartet. Like, I had a bittersweet feeling going into this book because I always get this like inkling when I finish a series, like, oh, I'm so sad it's over, but at the same time I'm so glad, and it was the same with this one. I really enjoyed it. I loved how fast-paced it was. It still felt like I was reading the Three Dark Crowns series, because sometimes I find that stories like progress too much for me from the first book, and it's like I feel like I'm reading a completely new series. But with this one, I just love the characters. I love both Catherine, Mirabella and Arsenault. Jules is amazing. Camden, her cat, I'm gonna call him Cat because I can't remember like the exact breed he is, because he's like one of the big cats. Like, I love them. I loved the whole story. It was so gruesome yet so satisfying to read about. Like, I'm really sad this series is over, but Kendall Blake did not disappoint me with this story. I saw some people say that it was predictable, but for me it felt not predictable because I thought the author would have done something else, but she ended up pulling another twist on me and I just loved it. I definitely see myself rereading this series in the future because it's just so atmospheric, so dark, yet so lovely. So another favourite. So the next book, or should I say books, because it's actually a duology. I couldn't decide which one I preferred more, but it is the State of Sorrow duology by Melinda Salisbury. So the first book is State of Sorrow and the second book is Song of Sorrow. So I actually picked these up because I found out that the author was coming actually to the city I live in, which never happens. I always have to travel to Birmingham to go to book signings. So I was like, of course I'm gonna like try and pick these up. I actually read State of Sorrow before meeting the author and it was fabulous. It's a political YA fantasy that follows a world in which the chancellor of the town we follow puts his town that he governs in a state of sorrow following an accident that killed both his heir, so his oldest son, and his wife. And he also has a daughter named Sorrow who ends up like going into politics because that's what she was like brought up to do, because the Venturis line is the one that rules. And yeah, it just follows on from there. I'm not gonna say too much else because I went into it pretty much blind. All I knew it was a political fantasy, but I really loved it because it's one of those simple ones. Like, it's really enjoyable. You don't get lost in the politics. The politics are actually enjoyable to read about. And then in the second book, it's more focused on romance and friendships and like resolving everything. And I really enjoyed both for different reasons, so that's why I'm gonna say both of these are my new favorites of 2019 because I love the characters and the story is just so good, and I definitely see myself again rereading this in the future. I don't think you guys are going to be surprised to see this next book on here because I'm pretty sure for the past 3 years I've been including one book from this series, and that is Finale by Stephanie Garber. So yes, the Caraval trilogy is finally over, and again I'm sad but at the same time so satisfied with the ending. I loved this. I filmed a spoilery vlog which I'll leave a link to down below, and I also did a full book review for every book in this series because this series is just my life. I absolutely love it. I love the characters. I love that everything I expected from this book was delivered, and it was actually even better than I expected. Just, it was so good. I love both Tella and Scarlett, and again I'm sad but like so satisfied. I don't know what else to say. It was just so good, like so good. So yeah, one of my favorites. The next book is Eve Was Shamed by Helena Kennedy. So of course I had to include a non-fiction on here because I did read quite a few good non-fictions, but this one stood out to me the most. So this one follows how the British justice is failing women, but that's what it says on the cover, but it actually dives into ethnic minorities, homosexual men, and more. And it was just so interesting to read about because what I loved with this, Helena Kennedy's writing is so accessible to anyone. Like, anyone could read this. You don't even have to be knowledgeable about the law. She makes statements and then shows you actual statistics, and the statistics were kind of like shocking because it's not what the media portrays. She even talked about this. Like, I definitely see myself rereading this in the future because it's really important. This is actually a reprint. I can't remember what the first edition of this book was called. I think it was called something else, but this is like an updated version, so it's very up to date with the times. It was just so good. I was like so shocked when I was reading all of this. I'll read you some of the like headings of the chapters. So the first one is Eve Was Framed, second one is The Good Wife and Mother, The Battered Wife, Asking for It, The Whore, The Other Woman, Manslaughter, and Wicked Women. Oh, and then there's also Girls, Girls, Girls. Like, it was just so good. Like, I kind of like, when I think about it and I pick it up in my hands, I really want to reread it. So I might reread it in 2020. But it was such a fab read. If you want a non-fiction to read in the new year, highly recommend this one because you will be shocked, and you don't have to live in Britain to read it because it's probably similar to where you live, sadly. One of my new all-time favorite non-fiction books. Okay guys, so we're getting to the top 3. So these ones are actually kind of like in order. Like, I love all these 3 books so much. I'm definitely gonna reread them in the future. So the third one is Stanza Feasts by Mary A. Pearson. So Mary A. Pearson is the author of The Remnant Chronicles, one of my favorite trilogies of all time. I actually reread it in preparation to read Dance of Thieves and then Vow of Thieves. So I did read Dance of Thieves before, or just before Vow of Thieves was released, and I'm so glad I did because wow, this book, oh my god, Cassie and Jace, the 2 perspectives we follow after all the events in The Remnant Chronicles. So we never actually met them in The Remnant Chronicles, but we see characters from The Remnant Chronicles in here, like the main characters being side characters. It was just so heartwarming reading about them and like what they're up to now. But Cassie and Jace stole the show for me. They are such amazing perspectives to read from. Like, I was blown away because I didn't think this duology could top the previous trilogy, but it developed the world so well. It was so interesting because Dance of Thieves is kind of like chapter 1. So we follow like a start of the story and then resolve the first problem. And then in Vow of Thieves, the second book, we follow a different problem. And it's really nice because it kind of feels like they can be read as standalones, but at the same time, they're continuations of each other in a way. Did that make sense? I hope so. But also the romance in this, I feel like 2019 for me was a year of romance reads. Like, if the book didn't have a good romance, it wasn't a new favorite of mine. And this one had the most sweetest, adorable romance, and I was just like rooting for them from the start. Cassie is part of the Queen's Return of Venda, and she gets tasked on a mission to go to the Ballingers, who are a clan. They have like their own city that they rule, and because the Queen of Venda thinks that they are keeping a valuable prisoner of war from the Remnant Chronicles there, she kind of tasks Cassie to find out if he's actually there so he can be punished for his war crimes, and basically follows on from there. But it's so much more. It was just so good, like so unexpected, took me by surprise. When I picked up the audiobook for this, I could not put it down. So yeah, I loved this. Favorite fantasy of 2019 for sure. The book that got number 2 on my favorites books of 2019 is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. So oh my god, I was blown away by this book. I again picked it up as an audiobook because I was looking for a romance book and I was like, this one's a long one, so I might as well pick up the audiobook. I might actually fly through it, and wow, I did. I pretty much read or listened to the whole audiobook in one day. It was so good. So in this one we follow Vanessa, who is kind of like the fairy godmother to Winnipeg, who is an NFL player, I believe, and he's actually a vegan one, so that was so cool to read about. But she does everything for him. She's kind of like a personal assistant. She like keeps his schedule on check. I think she even like cooks for him, and that was not her dream at all. She wanted to design, I remember. So once she saves up enough, and because Winnipeg never really appreciated her efforts into how much she made his life like so easy to live, she quits. But Winnipeg comes running back, like knocking on her door, like, come back Vanessa, I need you. And it just follows the story on from there. Oh my god, Vanessa is one of my all-time favorite protagonists because she is so relatable. Literally when she's talking to the reader, it feels like a best friend chatting to you, like telling you what's going on in her life. So good. Oh, I loved it. The slow burn of romance in 2019 was just killing me with this one as well. So good. So good. And this has one of my favorite tropes, which I did not know going into it, so I'm not going to talk about the trope, but I think you guys know what one of my favorite tropes tropes is in romance, if you've watched some of my other videos, so I'll just leave you guessing, but I think you're right if you're guessing the thing I love. But yeah, I loved this. I really loved Zach as well, who's the best friend. He, I think, also lived with Winnipeg, and he had like a best friend relationship with Vanessa, and I just found that so cute because it was just platonic, no like attraction at all. It was just friends, and I definitely believe that guys and girls can be friends, so I really appreciated that, and I hope Zach finds the love of his life. Like, I really want a book from his perspective as well. Also, why this made it onto the second book that was my favorite of 2019 is because literally after finishing it, I was exhausted because it's like a 16-hour book, audiobook, but when I finished it, I was so tempted, like 98% tempted to re-listen to it straight away because it was so good. I just really loved it. Like, I really want to reread it now. This is why this video is so hard to film, because after like talking about all my favorite books, like I just want to reread them all. But The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, you stole my heart. Okay guys, so the last book that I'm going to talk about today is the book that is my all-time favorite of 2019. It tops all the books that I've read this year, and I literally am like so blown away so blown away by it. I'm probably gonna reread it actually really soon, and it is Marriage for One by Ella Mace. Are you guys surprised? I feel like I've been raving about this book quite a lot since its release date. So it was actually released in May, and I got an ARC approved by Ella Mace herself, I think, and I was so thankful. I read it before the release date. I filmed a book review, and I just have been gushing about this book ever since reading it first. And then I also, like, I think like 2 weeks after reading it for the first time, I reread it literally in the same month in May. I read this book twice, and I just love it so much. So in this one we follow Rose, whose uncle like told her she could rent a place from him, like a commercial space, so she could finally pursue her dream of opening her own coffee shop around the corner. It was so adorable, that's the name, Around the Corner. And sadly her uncle and her aunt pass away, and then there's a conflict with the cousins who are like the uncle's kids. So Jack, a lawyer, proposes to Rose that they have like a marriage of convenience relationship because her uncle was quite old-fashioned and said that she can keep the property if she's married, I think. So it follows on from there. It's a marriage of convenience novel. It's a slow burn romance. It's so like big and long, but wow, every page, just, I love it so much. It's such a good story. I love Jack and Rose. I loved reading about the whole process of setting up a cafe, and like after she opened the cafe, it was just like a dream come true because that was one of my dreams for a very long time. It still kind of is, to own my own coffee shop. I just love the whole atmosphere, and like her coffee shop kind of resembled what I had imagined mine would be. So I feel like that's why I have a special connection with this book, especially because Jack is like a lawyer as well. I study law, so I might become a lawyer in the future. Like, I just loved it so much, and I have such vivid like imagination of some of the scenes in this book, and it's just so cute. Like the banquet scene, like the charity event they went to, I can see that so clearly in my head, and I love it. I love this book. I love Jack. He's very misunderstood, and I just appreciate a guy that's trying to do his best. It's just, oh, I love this. And Rose, like, oh my god, Ella Mace, you're just like the best author ever. So yeah, I really love this book. It's my favorite of 2019, like top favorite. Like, I just, even looking at this book just makes me so happy. So yeah guys, that is it for my favorite books of 2019. Let me know down below a list of all your favorite reads of 2019, as I would love to know. Maybe I'll pick them up in 2020 and they can become my new favorite reads. But I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.